So wonderful that you could join us today. And I have prepared a couple of questions for you because I'm super excited speaking to you after such a long time. We haven't seen each other. And just for everybody to know who is going to view this, Margaret Greenberg is the author of the book Profit from the Positive. And among many things, we are also going to talk about the book as well. Now, Margaret, do you mind sharing with me how the idea for the book Profit from the Positive came to you?
Of course. Actually, I met my co-author at the University of Pennsylvania 10 years ago when we both studied under Dr. Seligman and Dr. Christopher Peterson in the first ever Masters in Applied Positive Psychology. And that whole year that we were studying together, we found out we had a passion, obviously, for positive psychology, but we also found that we had a passion for baking. And we promised each other that when we graduated from the program, we would get together for a baking weekend. And that's what we did. Senya Myman, my co-author, came to my home in Connecticut, which is about 2 hours east of New York City on the east coast of the US. And it was while we were baking in my kitchen that the idea to write Profit from the Positive came to us. Both Senya and I are executive coaches, and we had been applying what we were learning in the program for about 2 years. But we were only reaching, maybe a couple hundred people a year in corporations through our work. And we thought, what if we wrote a book? Then we could reach a much, much broader audience. Sure. And that's exactly what we did. And now it's not translated into German yet, but it is translated into Chinese, Japanese, and Korean.
Perfect. I think Germans need that as well. And you're also referring to Germans at one point in time when you talk about stress peaks in a study. I remember reading it. So I think Germany is waiting for the book as well.
Great.
Now, everybody who has read your book understands the link between positive psychology and resilience. And if you don't mind, I would like to share now with the listeners a short paragraph from your book. Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful.
Can I show the cover?
Oh, yes, please do so. Yes.
Here it is.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
You wrote here in chapter number 2, The Resilient Leader. Give yourself a psychological kick in the pants. It is not enough to just be a productive leader. To get others to follow you, you also need to be a resilient leader. We all experience setbacks now and then in our careers, such as losing a key customer account, flubbing a presentation to senior management, or being passed over for a promotion. But what matters most is how quickly we bounce back from negative events. Well said. And obviously, as the bounce back coach, these are words I love to hear, and how you framed it is really beautifully done. I also know that you recently spoke at Google. So it's not just theories in a book. Those theories are applied and tested with businesses as we speak. What do you personally feel is the biggest challenge in applying the knowledge, or do you see there is a gap between the theories on one hand and then the day-to-day realities?
I do. I mean, it's not enough just to be aware, right? We need to be able to apply these things. But I'm going to shift the question a little bit, and rather than asking me what's the challenge, I would actually say what the opportunity is.
Okay.
The huge opportunity here for businesses to apply these tools because they don't cost anything. That's the whole thing about, there's 31 tools in the book, and with the exception of one, which is strengths, which you might have to take a strengths assessment, right? That might cost a few dollars. Right. All the tools, they don't cost anything other than, bringing together your managers or your employees in your company. So that's the opportunity, and it's to create that dialogue with the leaders in your company and your employees to begin talking about these tools and what can we do today with no financial investment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very strong and powerful. And I personally also a big fan of tools that are just simply available, and you can do that with your physical body, just with wherever you are in whatever situation. Yeah, very strong and powerful.
And I think when you bring people together to talk about them, you can do what's called peer coaching, right? People can coach each other. And again, that doesn't cost anything. And we're both, Senya and I, are big proponents of cultivating habits.
Right.
And we can cultivate resilient habits as well, rather than our default being, ruminating about something. Our default can be a disputing technique. When we start to feel like we're a loser, we start to feel like nothing's going our way, we can shift that internal chatter, we can shift the language and provide some evidence to the contrary and say, that's not true because, and then fill in the blank.
I love that statement.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to apply that with my daughter because I can see sometimes statements of these coming out. And I'm not sure if she's just testing me as a coach.
Well, I have two grown daughters, and it's amazing that, yes, we wrote this book for business leaders.
Right.
But all of these tools can be applied to our friendships, to our families, to adults and children. They're really strategies to help us live a more fuller life.
Yeah. Yeah, I fully believe so. And if you know it works for your family, definitely it's going to work for business as well, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Okay, another question I have for you. You mentioned earlier that you studied under Martin Seligman, who was the author of many, many books, one of them being Learned Optimism. And he's talking about that explanatory style and how we have these different styles in us. Do you sometimes catch yourself, being in the me, always everything framework or something?
We're human beings, right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes people think, oh, well, you study applied positive psychology, you must be, positive all the time. Well, I am a pretty positive person. I think my husband would tell you that. But I wouldn't be human if at times I didn't feel angry or disappointed or frustrated. Of course, we all do. We're human beings. Yeah. It's a matter, though, of how long do we stay in that state? Mm-hmm. And are we, you're the bounce back coach, right? How do you bounce back from those negative events? Do we sit and ruminate about them, or are we able to indeed bounce back? And that really is what a resilient leader is. We often talk, Anja, about change, right, in corporations. We used to talk about change as though it were something that people went through. Like there was a beginning and a middle and an end. And, if I just get through this latest change, I'll be okay. Well, now we know that change is constant. It isn't something that you go through. We're experiencing it all the time. So how do we get people to not just cope with change, but actually flourish? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And flourish during change. That's the key.
Yeah.
And that's what positive psychology can do to help people.
I'm very happy that you were admitting, that even if you have studied positive psychology, we are human. But of course, having the knowledge helps sometimes then to say, okay, I'm going through my mental cupboard and see what strategy might help me at the moment the quickest to get me out of that state of mind because I got a parking ticket or whatever it is.
Well, yeah, and it's catching yourself, right? Noticing and having enough awareness to say, oh, gee, I am obsessing over this or worrying about this, or I am beating myself up. And you catch yourself. That's exactly what it is. You catch yourself doing it.
What are your personal top 3 strategies to keep a flexible mind? Do you mind sharing?
Sure. I would say, first of all, in writing a book, there is a ton of rejection. So you talk about having to bounce back. First you get rejected by agents, then you get rejected by publishers, then you get rejected by endorsers. So to get a book published requires a lot of resilience.
Yeah.
Senya and I had each other to, help pick each other up. And I would say, especially in the writing of Profit from the Positive, there were a couple tools that we applied constantly. One was, there's a tool in the Resilient Leader chapter called Don't Quit, Just Quit Being an Expert.
Right.
And that tool draws upon the research of Dr. Carol Dweck out at University of California. Or no, actually, she's out at Stanford, I believe now. And she talks about growth versus fixed mindset. Mm-hmm. And we changed the language a little bit because in business, growth and fixed means something very different.
Yeah.
So we call it be a learner. Quit being an expert and instead be a learner. And so to apply it to the book writing, we knew nothing about publishing a book. So we really had to put on our learner hat, right? And be a learner. And we made mistakes and be okay with making mistakes. Mm-hmm. So that was the first tool that we used countless times was, well, we're just learning. So we're okay. The second one is put on an explorer's hat.
Yeah.
And ask yourself other questions. And this is on page, let me just look. That's on page 40 in the book. It's called Change Your Perspective by Changing the Questions You Ask.
All right.
So imagine that you're facing this huge challenge and you're feeling really overwhelmed and just not your best. There's some questions you can ask yourself to shift your perspective. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you do this in coaching all the time, right? You get people to shift their perspective. Yeah. So a question you can ask yourself is the future perspective.
Yeah.
What would my future self tell me 20 years from now? Chances are your future self probably won't even remember this problem you're experiencing, but she generally has a lot of wisdom. There's another perspective is the past perspective.
Okay.
So when have I been here before? And how did I get myself out of this? Uh-huh. We're very resilient people. Humans are resilient. So asking, both future and past. One of my favorite perspectives to ask myself when I'm feeling like just so frustrated and overwhelmed is, what would my best friend tell me?
Ah, nice. Mm-hmm.
Our best friend tends to be very kind and gentle to us, and yet our best friend we might not always have access to him or her, but we can ask ourselves, what would my best friend tell me right now? Yeah. And that can help shift perspective. And there's another handful of other perspective questions you can ask. So that's probably my second favorite tool. And then the third, let me think. I would say, again, I mentioned earlier about habits being so important.
Yes.
I always like to ask myself and the people I coach, what's the smallest change you can make?
Oh, I love that. Mm-hmm.
That would have the biggest, most positive impact. Really small, tiny.
Yeah.
Just to move and get beyond that inertia sometimes, right? So a small change with the biggest impact.
Correct. Yeah. That one is very, very powerful because you just have to move by a notch and, it can lead in a complete different direction. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Just a little shift, right? We're not talking about a huge change.
No. Just a small phone call or a little email or whatever it is, or getting up from your chair and walking a little bit, anything, Can
you tell I'm on a walking desk right now?
Oh, amazing. I want to have one as well.
It's awesome. It's like a treadmill, but with a desk, a platform that you can raise and lower, depending on if you're typing or if you're doing a call like this. And again, it's just a way to boost your mood when middle of the day, you might have been sitting for a while and you're feeling kind of low. You just get up and start to walk, and it's amazing how that can shift your perspective too.
Yeah, definitely. It's something I'm going to put on my wish list for Christmas, I guess. Then.
Yes, I got it for my birthday last March, so it's been a year now, and I'm just loving it.
Perfect. I also know, now I have one more question for you, that recently you launched a certification program that has come up from writing the book. Tell me a little bit more about that one.
Sure. Well, you and I met in Sweden when I was giving a talk at the International Coach Federation. That was 2 years ago.
September 2014.
And so at that point, the book had already come out. And we've been going around the world delivering talks and workshops and conferences at businesses and universities. And people would come up to us afterwards and say, when are you going to train other people to deliver these 31 tools? Because Senya and I can only be in so many places.
Sure.
We do a lot over the web, but also live. And so we said, we've got to put that on our, to-do list and create a certificate program where we could train other coaches and consultants and then internal, what we call learning and development people, HR type people, to feel comfortable then delivering the tools in our book. So it just doesn't have to be Senya and me. So we launched it last month. It's a 10-week online program, 90 minutes every Thursday. And it has just been just a wonderful experience to work with other professionals, and just the level of dialogue and interaction that we're having with people. We're loving it. It's the first cohort, and already we're saying, oh, we have to run another one of these.
Okay.
It just fills us up.
So is there then a website then people can go to and find out if there is another certification course?
Yeah, the best thing to do, we do have a website, profitfromthepositive.com.
Okay.
Same as the book. But the best way to learn more about the program is to email us at book@profitfromthepositive.com.
Okay. All right.
So book@profitfromthepositive.com. And we can send you, we have a couple videos of the free info sessions, and we can send that to folks to learn more.
Yeah.
And we'll offer it at different times so that we can appeal to the folks over in Europe.
Different time zones, but yeah. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
It's been delightful. I actually started my career, Ranja, I don't know if you know this or not, but my very first job out of undergrad was in the training and development department of a large food retailer.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was over 30 years ago. And now here I am designing curriculum again based on the book. And it almost feels like I've come back home in a sense.
Yeah, yeah. And it feels, it's a lot of joy and fun. I can see you're getting energy out of this, and it's something you enjoy doing.
I do. And, it's interesting. My slow period or my slump is generally around 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, so is mine.
Isn't it? Your energy starts to drop.
Oh, I start yawning.
That's actually the time of the program, this first cohort. And I was a little worried at first, thinking, that's not when I'm at my best.
Right.
But it is so energizing, and the people are just so engaging. I get off the webinar, and I feel like I just had a jolt of caffeine.
You're ready for rock and roll.
Right.
Oh, that's fabulous. Okay. I want to say thank you so much for everything you shared with us today in this interview. I'm looking forward to hopefully have a chance to meet you in person sooner than we've now. It's been too long that we've seen each other. And thanks a lot. And I hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you, Anja. And I hope this time you'll come to the U.S.
I will make a plan. Yeah.